Today I want to answer as many questions as possible. This is episode 16 of Share the Knowledge. Let's go.
For the last 22 years, I've been rocking stages, playing in clubs, and having a lot of fun as a DJ and turntablist, and I've seen and learned a lot. Now it's time for me to share that knowledge by answering the questions that can help you become a better DJ. I'm djTLM, and this is Share the Knowledge.
Guys, what's going on? Welcome to episode 16 of Share the Knowledge. This is the show where I answer your questions, and you can ask me questions on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. My handle is djTLM. Just add the hashtag Share the Knowledge and ask me anything. Now, short intro today because I'm going to get straight into the questions. I have so many questions in the phone right now, so let's get started. So this first question is from Old El Paso, and the question is, how many underground songs can you put in a set on a club or a bar? I got a lot of club bangers, but I don't know how much I can use on a bar, club, etc. I never DJ on a club, just a couple of bars. So I've always asked myself this question. Now, there's no real answer for this question. This really depends on the venue and on the crowd. I've been in situations where the crowd was open to anything. So I could hit them with hits, but also, quote unquote, educate them by throwing in a lot of album tracks, just really new music, or actually really old music, like music that's been sampled in modern day songs, and get away with it. And in other situations, I walk into that club and you can tell straight away, like, okay, today is gonna be nothing but hits because they're not gonna go with anything else. And of course, I try to sneak in a little bit of education, so to say, but it all depends. So I have different gigs and you're gonna have that too. So it really depends on the crowd and also what the venue or bar wants. Some of these clubs actually want you to be as commercial as possible to attract the more commercial crowd. So that's gonna play a role as well. Then I have a question from Nick, and the question is, how would I need to be dressed? Also, is the first impression key to getting gigs? So first of all, there's no dress code for DJs, but I would always take into consideration the type of event that you're doing. So if you're doing an event where everyone's dressed up, they're all suited up and stuff like that, you might want to dress for the occasion. And I'm not saying that you have to wear a full suit, but it might be a good idea to leave the sneakers and cap at home and dress with a button up, stuff like that. If you're playing at a wedding, I would dress accordingly and don't just show up in your baggy sweatsuit. That would be a good idea. But there is no dress code for a DJ, and a lot of DJs do like to really showcase their own style, and some even have certain parts of their wardrobe serve as a gimmick. Now, I've said this word gimmick before. When I say gimmick, this is not meant in a negative way. A gimmick could be that a certain artist always wears a red hat. That's his gimmick. That's what I call it. And that's not a negative thing. It's something that people will associate with that artist. And you also have DJs that always wear a certain type of clothes or have a certain headphone with glitter, whatever it could be. So you do want to have your own style, but always make sure you keep in mind the type of scenario, the type of event you're playing at. Now, first impression is definitely always key. And first impression is not just about how you're dressed. That can play a part, but it's mostly attitude. Always try to be as professional as you can be. Anytime I have a show, either if it's a club gig, a festival, or I'm doing shows like as a tour DJ, when I step on that stage and I come check out the DJ set and there's a stage manager or there's a technician there, I make sure I introduce myself, I shake their hand, try to remember their name. I'm not that good with names, but I try to remember their name. And when the gig is done and it's time for me to leave, maybe head home or go to a next gig, I make sure I greet and thank those same people once again, because I feel that's very important and people do remember that. So a first impression is always important. Of course, dressing accordingly also goes along with that first impression, but it's mostly your attitude. This question is from Malik, and Malik wants to get into DJing. He always wanted to be a DJ, and very soon he'll be buying his first controller. Now, most people say it's good to start with an entry-level controller. However, a local DJ I've been learning from said that I would regret spending the money on an entry-level one just to turn around and have to upgrade to a better one. Should I go ahead and buy the more advanced controller? I understand where that DJ's coming from, but I totally disagree. Here's why. A lot of you might be interested in DJing and you might want to explore the realm of DJing, and that starts at home. And you'll start out with whatever equipment. For a lot of you, after a while, you might find out that it's cool, but it's not really your thing. Or after a month or two, you're only doing it like once every 2 weeks. If you spent more than a little bit of money on that first equipment, and after a month or two, you're actually kind of done with DJing, that's just a waste of money, because a lot of times you won't be able to sell it for the same price that you bought it for, because now it's secondhand, so you're gonna get less in return. I would not start with a more advanced controller. Start with that entry level and learn the basics, because you want to start out with the basics anyway. The more advanced controllers, yes, they have more features, but most of those features are not important when you're first learning how to DJ. And when you're starting out with the basic techniques like beat matching and working on the EQ, and of course, phrases, beats, bars, working on your song selection, you do not need an advanced controller for that. That is the next step once you master those basics, and you can have a crazy amount of fun with that basic controller. So no, I would definitely not spend too much money. Start with that entry-level controller, see if DJing is really what you want to do, learn those basics, and then when you feel you've mastered that and you want to explore more options, then you can upgrade, and I would never call that a waste of money. So I have a question from Mr. That's all it says, Mr. I'm a 16-year-old DJ from Austria, and I recently had my first major gig with a friend of mine. I think we did a pretty well job for our first gig, and many people told us they liked what we were doing. Now here's the problem. The whole event was on 2 floors. There was the big main room and the smaller disco-like room. We were in the smaller room. In the main room, there was a so-called professional DJ from the other school, because this was a school ball. And the problem is now that nobody was in our room because the other DJ just played his music. He didn't read the crowd, he made absolutely no transitions, and most of the people said that they really didn't like him. But for some reason, they were still in the main room, not dancing, but they were there and they did not come to our room. Do you know why that might be? Now, for a lot of people, the big room where the most people are will always be the most attractive place. And if they walk into a club or venue or wherever it was, that main room is always their first objective. Unless they know the DJs that are playing in the smaller room, that will be probably the only reason why they would check the smaller room. Otherwise, they will head for the bigger room. And if most of the people are there, they will also stay there. In that case, not to disrespect the crowd, but that is sort of sheep behavior. If they see one going there, then they follow, and that's where they all go. And you could see that that was the case because the DJ wasn't good. People were even saying that didn't like him, but they still stayed there because that's where most of the people were. Now, it happens sometimes. Sometimes you will have a couple of people walking into your smaller room, find out that that's where the good music is being played. They might go back to that main room, get their friends, and then you have that the small room is packed. I've played parties where me and another DJ were doing the smaller room, and we had a packed room all night long. People were just trying to get in, but it was already full because we were doing the right thing and people told other people. So by word of mouth, our room was full. And sometimes you have gigs where you're just in there with a couple of people, they're having a blast, but the rest of the crowd is in the main room sticking with the rest of the crowd. So it's not your fault. The only thing you can do for the next time you have an event like that, if you have your friends there, try to get your friends to go into that main room and bring a couple of people. Even if every friend goes in there and just picks up 2 people, your room will start to fill up. And then maybe they go back, pick up some more people, or at least let them know, like, hey, you have a smaller room right there, it's going on, that's where you need to be. And then people will also follow and that small room will fill up. Zach has a question. I want to start mixing with vinyl, and I managed to get a turntable for cheap, but to start I have a lot more things to get, like a second turntable and mixer, etc. And because I'm a student, 16 years old, I don't have much money. Is it better to stick to trying to buy equipment for vinyl, or maybe try to buy something else to DJ with? Zach, here's the thing. There's a lot of options if you want to start DJing. Yes, the cheaper option would be to go for a controller if you already have a computer. But like you said, if your goal is to DJ with vinyl, if you want to play with vinyl, your only option is to buy 2 turntables and a mixer. It's as simple as that. So it all depends on how much you really want to start playing with vinyl. So that's up to you. But if you want to play with vinyl, you're going to have to find the money or save up money for the rest of your equipment. If it's not that big a deal for you, you could also start out with a controller, learn the basics on that, and later on find money to buy that second turntable and mixer. Once again, we have a question from the DJ 360, and this time the question is, if you're from another country DJing alongside another DJ in a club and he or she is playing music that's killing the crowd and the floor is packed, but the music is from a genre that you're not as knowledgeable in, how do you go about getting those songs and finding out what those killer songs are without going against the DJ code and asking the DJ what they are or sneaking peeks at the laptop? First of all, I do not agree with that code if that code truly exists. And I know back in the days, DJs were like taking labels off their vinyl so other DJs couldn't see what they were playing. Now, exclusivity like that hardly exists because all music is, or most music, especially new music, is accessible to each and every one of you through the internet. Now, with older releases that are not that easily found on the internet, it's a little bit different. But I don't even agree with that DJ code if it still exists. And if I'm playing, or if I'm at a club and another DJ's playing and he's playing a song that I really like and I've never heard it before, I'll go straight up to that DJ and I'll be like, wow, what's this? Because I want to know. I love music. I just heard a song I really like. I want to know what it is. And of course, it's up to that DJ if he or she wants to share that info or not. So to me, that's one way to do it. Now, of course, you can always try to Shazam stuff and see if that comes up, but sometimes it might, sometimes it might not. So those are your options, basically. You have to Shazam it or use another service like that or ask the DJ. Or if you're in a different foreign country and you're with someone from that country, hopefully they're knowledgeable and they can help you out and you can ask them like, hey, what's this? Especially if it's local music. But those are probably your best options. I would just ask. This question is from DJ Spally, if I'm pronouncing the name right. So I work in a nightclub as a bartender and I'm eager to play some sets in the club, any sorts of set really. But I don't know how to approach the managers about this. Any advice or suggestions? Okay, so in this case, I would probably just start by letting your manager at least know that you're also DJing if he or she doesn't know that already. Bring that up in the conversation. Just let them know that you're doing your stuff. And if possible, give them a link or a CD so they can check out your stuff. Maybe just start with that at first. It all depends. If you know your manager a little bit, you probably know if they're comfortable with their bartenders trying to move up into that DJ slot as well. Or if they're not really into that at first and you just want to start slow by just letting them know that you're a DJ, sending them their music. Or if you have that good relationship going on already and they already know that you DJ, just straight up ask. Like, hey man, if there's a slot free anywhere, I'd love to get a set in. Even if it's like the opening hour or whatever, you got to start somewhere. So maybe you can play that first hour on a day that you're not working as a bartender and take it from there. That's all there's really to it. Ask. Then we have another question from Boss T. He's been on the show before, and this time the question is, I'm currently doing my A-levels and I'll probably start studying or do an apprenticeship. So my question is it possible to fund such education with DJing? And I'm also afraid that it might become too exhausting to play every day on the weekend and it might harm my joy of DJing. Of course, I'm not playing for the money only, but it definitely helps. What are your thoughts? There are no guarantees. Let's start with that. Either you already have a DJ career going on and you're already playing a lot, then you have at least a view of how much money you're making right now, and that could give you a clear idea if it's possible to finance such a thing. But if you don't have the gigs now, there's no guarantee that you're going to have enough gigs to finance your whole study. Now, getting bored because you're playing every day of the weekend, I have not found a DJ who's ever said that to me at any time. That will be the world's most luxurious DJ problem ever. Oh, I have too many gigs. So you should consider yourself very, very lucky if you get to play every day of every weekend as a DJ, because that's what most of us really love to do. So I hope it works out for you, but there's no guarantee. So either go all for it and it might work, but if you want to make sure that your study is financed, you might have to find some other means to secure your finances and keep DJing as that side thing for now. So I have a question from Ramsey, and the question is, I'm an international student from Jordan who's going to study in the UK next year. I'm thinking of somehow applying to be a resident DJ at one of the clubs in the city I'm going to. What do you suggest I do? I'm thinking of recording a short set at one of the clubs I locally DJ at and include some grime music, UK music, so that I will connect with the foreign crowd. Thoughts? Now, if you're going to a new country, it will always be extremely difficult to just start DJing because there's already a complete DJ scene there filled with a lot of beginning DJs that would also love to get their hands on a spot anywhere to play. So if you're not very, very good or very special and you have something to offer that's different from the DJs that are already there, it's definitely not going to be easy, and you will have to come with something that will really impress them to even consider you. So you're coming from a different country. Now that could be an interesting angle, but you would have to have the skill, first of all, so that when you let people hear something that they hear like, okay, this dude knows what he's doing. And yeah, record one short set. You should definitely have material online, and people should be able to find that. You maybe want to start trying to build your name in the UK already before you even get there. So get your mixes online and start approaching people in the UK. You can find out online on Twitter and Facebook, whatever, and try to reach people from the UK and make sure that they check out your stuff, especially from the city that you're going to, because that will be great if there's already, even if it's just a small fan base, already people in the city that know your name before you even get there. And yeah, it's going to be hard. I mean, you have to do the same thing that all the other DJs are doing when it comes to approaching clubs and promoters. So you can try to find out online, but it's going to be hard if you don't know anyone in the city yet to find out who is who and who's doing what. So that's going to take up a lot of time. Should you include grime music or UK music to make it more appealing to that local scene? You could do that, but you would still need to know what type of songs from that particular genre are working in that area, because you can say, okay, it's UK, I'm going to put grime on there, but that's one grime track might not do the same thing in London as it's going to do in Newcastle. You don't know. It's different here too. I mean, I can play songs in this city that are like total bangers already that are not doing the same thing when I drive 2 hours to a different city. You don't know. So still, you would have to do some research to know that you're adding the right music if you're going to add that music to appeal to the local crowds. So I think the main word here is research. It starts off with a lot of research and take it from there. All right, this next question is from Tactic. It's a 14-year-old DJ and he wants to create a party for the end of the school year. He wants to know what he should take care of, how loud the music should be. He's going to do it in the daytime, and he wants to know what type of effects he should use. And that's basically it. Tactic, I cannot answer this question for you because this is very specific to where you're at, and I have no clue of all the ins and outs. This is not something I can just answer in a video right now. I have no idea how loud the music should be. It all depends on what type of environment it is. If it's in the daytime and it's outside, is there a permit? Can you make a certain amount of noise? Because that all depends. I played a lot of outside gigs where they have a set amount of decibels and they can't go above that. I have no idea. What type of equipment, smoke machines, and effects you should use, I have no idea, because also that depends on the type of budget you're working with. You say it's for 100 people, I believe. It all depends. If it's outside and smoke machines and lights are not going to be really effective unless it's done right, I cannot answer this question. There's just too much to talk about. I think I would say if you're going to do an end of school party for 100 people, that's not that large. Don't go overboard with too many things. Try to keep it basic. But like I said, it really depends on the type of budget you're working with. Is the school working with you on this, or are you financing this yourself? Too much to answer. So maybe someone who's watching can help you out more. Connect with you in the comment section down below. So tactic, if you're watching this, make sure you leave a comment in that comment section and see if someone who's watching can help you out. Now, I'm not sure if I've talked about this question before. It looks familiar, but I'm just not sure. I'm not going to go through all my old videos to see if I talked about this. The question is from William B. And the question is, I don't know any good sites where I can get free music crates. I watched your music pool video and checked the links, but it really isn't what I've been looking for. Can you help me? I'm not sure what you mean by free music crates, and the video that you're talking about was of course about DJ pools, and most of the DJ pools are not free. Of course you have a site like DigiWax, that's also sort of a DJ pool and that is free, but most of the other ones do require you to subscribe, and it's a paid subscription. I'm not sure what you're talking about with free music crate, but if you checked out those DJ pools and they do not offer what you're looking for, then you need to be more specific and let us know what you're actually looking for. So again, join the conversation in the comment section down below and maybe we can help you out. So this question is from Henry from Germany, and the question is, does mixing and key actually do something? Because I was told by a lot of people that mixing and key makes your mixing smoother, yet I didn't experience that when I tried it. It was the same quality as before. Now for me personally, mixing and key is not that valuable. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but it really depends on the type of genre you play. So for me with hip hop and R&B, it is of less importance. Now I have to add, I have a pretty good ear, so I can hear when music clashes. And when I say clash, I'm not talking about the tempo. I mean, everything's in sync, but in certain occasions you have the melody of one track and the melody of the other track, and they just don't blend that well. It doesn't sound right to my ear. So that's my internal key warning, so to speak. Now with different genres, it can definitely improve the quality of the mixes because they're more focused on the instrumental part of things and longer blends, longer transitions, and you can make them more musical if everything's in key as well. So it can help, but maybe you already have that good internal feeling for it. So you were already mixing in key a lot of times, but it can definitely lead to certain mixes that you might not have done. So it could be a cool thing just to experiment, and sometimes just make sure that your folders are set not by BPM, but by key, and see if you find some new mixes between tracks that you wouldn't have thought of. But it can add value, but I can also understand if you don't notice any difference, you might already be doing everything right. All right, then the last question is from Zealous Technician. What up? And the question is, I know we've discussed the role of the warm-up DJ quite a few times, but I don't think we've discussed the closing DJ yet. What should the approach of the closing DJ be like? I've been in a lot of different scenarios where you have different ways to close the night. Now this all depends. Some of you might not do closing sets. I've done a lot of gigs where I play with a couple of DJs and we do the entire night. So we warm up, we play prime time, and we close it out. Now back in the days, you had a lot of DJs, when it came to that closing 30 minutes, they would switch to slow jams. Yes. They would switch to slow jams, and that's where the guys would start looking for the girls, trying to hook up, start with a dance, maybe get a number. That's how they did it. A lot of DJs definitely don't do it like that anymore. A lot of parties don't do it like that anymore, but that was how they did it for a long time. I've done that a couple of times, but it was really not my thing. And I've played at parties where it's clear that it's a good idea in that last half hour, maybe 45 minutes, to take that vibe from there when it's highly energetic and bring it back down again, because you feel if you keep it up to that level all the way to the end, it's going to lead to some friction. In some cases, it's not good to have people all the way there and then be like, bam, party's over. I've seen that go wrong, where people were like so far in that party mood that they felt like they were just being ripped out of that and it didn't feel good. So in some cases, it can definitely be good to bring it back down a bit, get them in a more mellow vibe before they have to leave. And I've had parties where we were playing bangers to the last minute. The lights went on, the whole crowd was still there asking for more, and everything was all good. So it really depends on the vibe of the crowd, the type of crowd, and also if the club has to abide by certain rules, because I played at clubs where the club has to be empty at a certain time. So the party doesn't stop at a certain time. They have to have that club totally empty at a certain time. So you have to make sure you start lowering that energy at the right time. So maybe the first people already start to leave 15 minutes before, and then the rest starts to leave 10 or 5 minutes before they have to really close it down. It all depends on the situation. Guys, that's all I'm going to talk about today. I feel I covered more than enough, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you like it. If you're checking out the audio version, the podcast on SoundCloud and iTunes, make sure you like that and share that. And I received a question if I can make the podcast on SoundCloud downloadable. And if you're not subscribed to iTunes and you're not getting it there, I'm also going to make the SoundCloud podcast downloadable. I put everything off download because I was getting in trouble. I didn't want to get in trouble with my mixes, but since the Share the Knowledge podcast is really all my material, I can make that downloadable. So I'm going to do that right now. So if you're listening now, you can download all 16 episodes right now. Question of the day. What's your favorite set to play? Warm up, prime time, or closing? Now, this might sound like an obvious thing, like everyone's going to say prime time. But in my opinion, I love prime time, but I also really like a good warm-up set because it allows me to play different stuff than you get to play when you're playing prime time. So it might be an obvious one for most of you, but tell me why a specific part of the night is your favorite set to play. That would be more interesting to know. So that's it for now. If you have any questions, you know where to reach me. Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat. The handle is djTLM. Add that hashtag share the knowledge and ask me anything, and I'll be back soon. Salute.